Look at your phone. Now look in the mirror. Which one tells you who you really are? Most of us live our entire lives as total strangers to ourselves, following a built-in navigation system we didn't design. We think we are in the driver's seat of our minds, but a little introspection reveals we are often just following a script. We perceive only the display screen atop a complex software run on even more complex hardware. If you don't learn how this system works and how to override it, you risk ending up somewhere uninteresting at best and disastrous at worst. Today, we aren't talking about productivity hacks or surface-level habits. We are talking about a psychological rebirth. If you aren't ready to let your old self die, then this video isn't for you. You might be feeling that quiet sense of frustration, the feeling that something fundamental has gone missing. This isn't just a mood, it is biological. We are all born with roughly 86 billion neurons. Throughout your life, your brain is continually modified by 150 trillion synaptic connections made in response to your everyday experiences. This is called activity-dependent plasticity. It means your thoughts are literally sculpting your brain at every moment. But here is the problem. Research shows your brain makes decisions about 300 to 500 milliseconds before you are even aware of them. If you aren't in control of that half-second gap, you aren't in control of your life. You are simply reacting to a version of yourself that was programmed years ago. Let's talk about the mask you're wearing. Carl Jung, the pioneer of depth psychology, called this the persona. It is the face you present to the world to gain approval and navigate society. Think back to your childhood. Were there moments you expressed yourself freely, only to be met with disapproval? Maybe you were told to be realistic, or that your emotions were too much. Slowly, you learned to hide those parts of yourself. You built a mask to keep yourself safe and loved. The danger is that over time, you start to believe you are the mask. You lose touch with your true self, and that is where the frustration begins. You are trying to live a life that was written by your upbringing, your culture, and the unseen influences of the world around you. But the brain is a conservative creature. It craves order and a stable sense of self. This is why change feels so violent. There is a psychological mechanism called homeostasis that keeps your sense of self consistent. When you try to act in ways that don't align with your old mask, your mind experiences genuine discomfort and tries to restore the old balance. This is why you know what you should do, but you don't do it. Your brain actually prefers your familiar misery over an unknown better life because the familiar is efficient. To your neurons, the path you've walked 1,000 times is a highway, while a new behavior is a dense jungle that requires immense energy to clear. This brings us to the most overlooked part of transformation, the shadow. If the persona is what you show the world, the shadow is what you hide from it. It contains your fears, your vulnerabilities, and even your hidden strengths that you were taught to suppress. Most people try to run from their shadow, but Jung warned that the parts of yourself you reject don't go away. They just manifest in unconscious ways like anxiety, self-sabotage, or unfulfilling relationships. Real self-improvement is dark and it is painful because it requires you to integrate these rejected parts. You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How can you rise anew if you have not first become ashes? To bridge the gap between knowing and doing, you need a weapon. That weapon is meta-awareness. Meta-awareness is the ability to observe your thoughts instead of being trapped inside them. Think of it as a wedge you insert into that 300 millisecond gap. When you feel that old trigger of anger or procrastination, instead of reacting, you pause. That 1 second pause is a psychological micro-revolution. It interrupts the learned loop and creates space for a new choice. Every time you use this wedge, you are physically weakening the old neural pathways and growing new ones. You are teaching your brain that the old pattern no longer defines reality. However, you cannot heal in the same environment that made you sick. Your physical surroundings are constantly triggering your old identity. If you want to transform, you must practice environmental design. This isn't just about cleaning your room. It's about disrupting the brain's highway of efficiency. Change your routine, change your social circle, and most importantly, identify the algorithmic shadow. In the modern world, the collective unconscious has been replaced by the algorithm. Your digital environment is constantly feeding your mask and reinforcing your insecurities for profit. True individuation today requires you to unprogram yourself from the external digital psyche. You have to become untrackable by reclaiming your own biological navigation system. Transformation isn't about adding something new. It's about a radical sacrifice. You have to identify which part of your current life, a job, a habit, or a relationship, must die to allow the new self to emerge. This sacrifice will initially lead to a void, a period where you don't quite know who you are. This is the dark night of the soul, and it is where most people quit and run back to their old, suffocating comfort. But if you can stay in that discomfort with curiosity instead of judgment, the new self begins to stabilize. It takes about 66 days to reach what psychologists call automaticity, where the new you becomes easier to be than the old you. The ultimate realization is that you were never truly lost. You have always been here, buried under layers of conditioning and fear. The person you are meant to become is waiting on the other side of your fear, and they are worth fighting for. You aren't just a single, isolated being moving through time. You are a vast field of potential that is being rewritten in every moment. Stop trying to find yourself and start choosing yourself. Every thought you repeat and every choice you make in the next 500 milliseconds is the construction of your future. The choice is yours. Will you continue living as a fragment, or will you step into the fullness of who you were always meant to be? Turn off the noise, listen to the silence, and start the rebirth.